Hey guys, welcome back to the Vibe Within podcast. I'm your host, Gab Cohen, and today's episode is the second episode of the Microdosing Mushrooms for Mental Health series. That's a mouthful. And today's episode is with my friend Chelsea, who has been doing a microdosing protocol for the last year or so, and we get really deep in this episode about depression, anxiety, panic attacks. We talk about shadow work. We talk about the powerful shifts that we've felt as we are going through our own microdosing journey. We talk about how we're dosing ourselves. We talk about different protocols, how many days, on and off we do of our microdosing. We really get deep and in the nitty gritty. We're not just talking about, mushrooms are so great. We're actually talking about the physical and the emotional and the mental shifts that we physically feel and mentally feel in our bodies. And we talk deeply about some reflections that we've noticed, some reframes. We talk about trauma and how we're healing that trauma. We talk about therapy and EMDR. We talk about a variety of different takeaways that we've noticed, especially after the first couple months of microdosing. And we talk really just vulnerably about depression and what brought us to our microdosing journeys, what we're learning so far, about anger, about emotions, about how we are handling our anger and our triggers. We talk a lot about triggers and relationships and family trauma, and I share very openly and candidly about what I've been going through in my own, life, just with a lot of, shifts in my life, losing people, places, things, jobs, family, toxic family members, you name it. So, I think you're really going to enjoy this episode because it's not just like you're listening to two scientists or experts talk about mushrooms. You're talking to two people who really are deep in the work of working with the medicine of psilocybin, and I'll be sure to put all of the brands and the discount codes in the show notes. The two brands that I recommend that I've been using is Vellum Health. Vellum Health is a Canadian company, and they sell microdose psilocybin capsules, and they also have different types of capsules that have different kinds of medicinal mushrooms in them, like reishi, like lion's mane, cordyceps, ashwagandha, and they have other adaptogens in there. So that's an amazing company. They are a Canadian company, so if you want to order from them, but you are a United States customer, you need to DM or email them. Sorry, that was my cat. You need to DM them or email them, and then they will process your order via email. So all USA orders need to DM or email them. And when you do that, make sure that you mention the discount code VIBE, because you will get a 10% off of your purchase. So Canadian customers can just order directly on the website and use discount code VIBE. But if you're a USA customer, you have to DM or email them, and they will process your order via email and mention the code VIBE. The other company that me and Chelsea have both used, and I still have been using daily, I have been rotating between Golden Euphorics and the Vellum Health. So goldeneuphorics.org is another amazing company that sells microdose psilocybin, and they have a variety of different strains and blends, and each blend will explain to you what kind of like the purpose and the dynamic of that blend does. So you can check out their website, goldeneuphorics.org, and they have a nice breakdown of each different strain, and you can use the discount code VIBE as well. You can just order directly from their website. It's a United States based company, So feel free to go to their website, order, and check out with the discount code VIBE. So let's get right into this episode. I think you're really going to take away a lot. We we got super deep and jam packed a lot of information, a lot of like just therapeutic ways of talking through our issues. And I think you guys are really going to resonate with a lot of what we shared because everyone goes through depression, everyone goes through a traumatic event, everyone goes through anxiety, everyone goes through challenging experiences and relationships. And if you've tried everything and you are really trying to rewire your brain, that is what we talk a lot about in this episode. Rewiring the brain, neuroplasticity, and just how we can get out of those stuck patterns and cycles and really just reclaim who we want to be, how we want to act, how we want to feel, and how we want to live our lives. So, enjoy this episode and let us know what you think. You can DM us. You know my Instagram. It's GabLoveFlow, and I'll be sure to put Chelsea's Instagram in the show notes. All right, enjoy. Hi, Chelsea.
Hi, Gab. How's it going?
Good. I'm really glad that we're doing this because me and you have been kind of going back and forth about our personal experiences with microdosing psilocybin, and we've gotten pretty deep in our DMs about just things that we've been experiencing and shifts and all these like epiphanies and aha moments, and it's like I've felt a really strong connection to you and everything that we've kind of been going through. So
Mm-hmm.
I want in this series of the microdosing series on here, I wanted to have a conversation with someone who also has been doing it, and in it and feeling it and experiencing it day in, day out. So,
Right.
um, why did you initially want to start doing microdosing mushrooms?
It's been almost a year. I started in February, like the end of February last year. And I don't know, I was pretty depressed. I just kind of felt like everything was dull. I had little focus. Let me pull up my notes here because I wrote a lot of this down. My actions weren't aligning like with my thoughts. I was procrastinating a lot, and something about the mushrooms, it was like calling me, and it was like I started doing a bunch of research into it and started getting really intrigued by it. And we kind of talked about this a little bit, how I was nervous and scared at first, just because you never know how these things are going to go. And I think fear of the unknown is a big thing. And that honestly, I've been working through that in general, just fear of the unknown. But to start, that was like a big deal, just being kind of scared.
Yeah. Yeah, I
um,
was scared too. I was actually really scared.
yeah.
Because I have had a couple experiences on psychedelics. I had one near death experience where I
Mm-hmm.
literally almost died at a music festival. So I was really,
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't done any kind of psychedelics, any kind of tripping, whether it was microdose, large dose, since my early 20s.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm in my early 30s. So it's been well over a decade. Um, so what were you scared of? What were you afraid of and nervous about?
I was nervous about, well, kind of like you said, I've had some experiences too where it can get kind of scary and like kind of dark in a way. And I was just kind of scared of that resurfacing. But with the larger doses, it's all amplified. So with the micro doses, it's a lot more subtle and a lot easier to handle. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah, I'm trying to think what let's see.
Yeah, because I mean, so me and you, we're
Hmm.
used to those big kind of druggy experiences.
Right,
I'm gonna speak from my own experience because like I was never doing it from a therapeutic standpoint
right.
ever.
Yeah, that's
I
kind of
was
how I
doing
started out too, where it was like more of like a partying kind of thing.
yeah,
And I realized pretty quickly that it's not meant for that. It's definitely more of like a I mean, it can be used for that, I guess, and it can be fun, but at the end of the day, I feel like it's more of a medicine.
Mhm. Yeah, before I came on here, I was kind of just like I was kind of just brainstorming and thinking, and this like something came to me before we hopped on here, and I was just like, things hit differently when you're doing a microdosing protocol.
Mhm.
And by that, maybe you can relate, everything hits differently. It
Mhm.
feels like even like just the smallest things hit differently, and I feel things on like a deeper but more calm level, if that makes sense. Like things are
Mhm.
maybe amplified a little bit and intensified a little bit as far as experiences go. Like I went to a yoga class, a few yoga classes last week, and it was just amazing experiences. I DM'd you right away, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Holy fucking shit!" I just went to this class. The music was amazing. I felt it in my body. I was having fun. Like just all these awakening kind of experiences. Where when I was sober, not doing microdosing at all, I would go to a yoga class and I'd be like, "Oh, that class sucked,"
Yeah, it's sort of like
like
a disconnection from the senses, like, for me before at least, like, I wasn't as connected to my body, I was more so, like, in my head a lot, and not in a good way either, like, in a, like, a beating myself up kinda way, getting in these negative thought loops. I was reacting from a really horrible place, like, I was reacting from my past where, right now I have a very stable life, everything is, like, I'm so grateful for where I'm at right now, but I was still reacting from a place, of trauma, and little by little with the microdosing, it's been almost a year now and chipping away at that, so that I can react, not react, just act, or like, take
just
a step
yeah,
back, take a breath,
right.
and I'm not, going crazy in the moment, not feeling like I have absolutely no control. And I feel like with the microdosing, it's kind of put me back more in a space of control over my thoughts,
And
emotions,
your
and action.
reactions.
Yeah, exactly.
So what would you be reacting to like on a daily basis? Like what were those triggers? What were those experiences that were like setting you off? Or they could be little, they could be big. What kind of traumas, big T, little T,
Mhm.
were you working with day in, day out that were making you feel like you were so out of control with
Right.
your reactions?
A lot of it for me is in, like, relationships, and, like, my past relationships were pretty abusive, and, living with my partner now, it's totally the opposite of that. It's loving and it's caring, and I was still, stuck in, like, in that victim mentality,
Yeah.
playing that role still when I wasn't in that role. I'm not in that role anymore. And just, little things, like, for instance, my partner would be, pointing something out, trying to help me, and I would be taking it as an offense kind of thing. And it was like, it wasn't meant that way. I was just misinterpreting a lot of things due to my past situations, if that makes
Mhm.
sense.
Yeah, 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 because like I'm dude, I would take things to the extreme and like I still do, but
Mhm.
like my because I have ADHD and I'm learning a lot about ADHD, and it's a form of neurodivergence, which I didn't really know that.
Mhm.
And something with ADHD is that OCD coincides with it, eating disorders coincide with it,
Mhm.
and the amplified, intensified emotions that we feel, and even if you don't have ADHD, with trauma, that is also normal because things can trigger you day in day out, and you're like, well,
Mhm.
why am I feeling so activated? Why am I feeling so fucking angry? Why am I feeling so like I'm taking this little thing that like my mom or her husband said, and I'm taking it to the extreme where I'm huffing and puffing, and I'm
Mhm.
like I have to like go for a 2 hour walk, or I have to like fucking like do all this crazy shit to diffuse it. And it's like, is it really that big of a deal what just happened?
Right.
And it feels like it's that big of a deal because it's linked to the trauma.
Mhm.
And it's like So if I could go back to the root of the trauma, and that's why we go to therapy and shit, right? But
Mhm.
like therapy only, I can sit and talk about this shit all day long. I
Right.
like there's only so much I can like think my way out of and talk my way out of, and that's why I enjoy things like EMDR and like tactical practices and stuff like that. But what I've been realizing is that the mushrooms like are doing something on like a deeper level, like a cellular
Mhm.
level.
Yeah, like a
And
subtle
and
level. Yeah.
and like look, I haven't been at my mom and her husband's house yet while I've been doing this experience. So I don't know for sure how intensified my triggers are going to be once I'm back there.
Mhm.
But I've been triggered the past couple months since I've been in LA. Not as bad as I could be, but I still have my eating disorder, I still have my OCD, and I still have my ADHD. None of those things have gone away.
Mhm.
So like I'm still really triggered on a daily basis. The smallest things will trigger me. I have sensory issues in my body. I deal with like really big like emotional and um like mood fluctuations and stuff. So
Yeah.
that's something that I've realized that the mushrooms, it almost feels like my internal volume setting has just been turned down, and like something that would make me go ballistic, like
Mhm.
um something that somebody says, or me dropping something or being clumsy, like the anger outburst moments, or just the moments where I'm just like I feel this surge of like energy in my body, like of it's just that's all I can really explain it as, this surge of
Mhm. Oh, I
energy of
felt that. Yeah, I
you
feel
know
yep, I know exactly what you're talking
and
about.
it's like that has been toned down a little bit.
And for me, so, like, when I had those outbursts, like, a lot of the times before, I would like, after the outburst, I would go on this, like, shame cycle, and I would shame myself, and I'd be like, "Why am I like this?" Like, I would just go in this loop of, like, beating myself up because of it, and that was, like, a whole 'nother section of that, I guess you could say. But yeah, I feel like the inner narrative, I'm just, like, a lot more kind to myself now, can talk myself through it a little bit better. It's like I'm talking like we talked about inner child kind of a little bit in our DMs, but um like talking to the child version of myself, and calming myself down the way I would want to be calmed down, by a
Yeah.
parent or something. It's like almost inner parenting, reparenting.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, okay, so like when something is happening, the maybe the psilocybin is working on like a deep brain cellular level so that we're able to take a moment of pause and like, because I am so heady and like I'm aware of
Mhm.
the things that trigger me, and I'm aware that all of them are linked to trauma in some
Mhm.
way.
Right.
Like I'm like me and you listen to podcasts, we go to therapy, we know this shit.
Mhm.
But when you're in that reaction and that anger and that sadness and that like it takes you away from like the moment of what is actually happening because you forget that you're actually safe right now.
Right, exactly.
And like what the mushrooms have been doing for me, I think, is like it's helping me remember and reminding me in the moments where I'm like feeling really buzzing and uncomfortable and unsafe. It actually makes me step back and take a breather and say, okay, no, everything's fine, you're safe, you're here,
Mhm.
you're not where you were when you were 10 when that happened,
Yeah, it's like taking a step back from it all, and realizing that you have a choice, like, in that moment. You can either, like, you can feel it and realize it and express it in a more conscious way. And I feel like it connects us more to our senses. Like, I'm already pretty sensitive, but I feel like it's deepened my senses in a way, like, that I'm way more present now than I ever have been in my whole life.
Yeah.
And it's still, like, every day, like, even though I've been doing this for a year now, and I've taken a couple breaks here and there, but I still feel like it's still working on a subtle level, just being more present in everything and learning that I can bring intention into everything that I do. Um,
Okay, so you say you've been doing it for a year.
mhm,
What, because I know there's many different protocols. Like, what did
mhm,
you start out doing? How did that change? And what are you
yeah.
doing now?
Yeah, so I started like I did a lot of research at first, like you have been too. And I started with the I think it's the Fadiman. I don't know how to say that, but that
James Fadiman,
yep,
yeah.
yeah, that one. So where I did 1 day on and then 2 days off, and like I kind of it was all an experiment, honestly. And and I really liked it. It was, I mean, it was a nice way for the whole year to kind of get introduced to it in a different way. Like I said, I've had a couple macro doses here and there, but the micro doses just works on such a different level. I feel like, and through time, it solidifies everything. And I've been talking to you recently about how well, actually, just this past week, I started a different protocol. I'm doing the Stamets method, where
And
it's
explain that.
yeah, so that one is 4 days on and then 3 days off. So
Okay.
that I started that a week ago, and
And
it's
why? So like,
yeah,
cause yeah,
hmm
like I'll go through like what I started at, what I've changed, but why did you want to increase the days and stack the days on top of each other?
yeah. If I'm being honest, it wasn't anything really psychological. It was more so been having these terrible migraines, and a couple of people were like, you should try microdosing in a different way for your migraines, and I tried that, and I think it's just I'm just holding out a lot of tension in my body, so it didn't really relieve my migraines. But it has done something. Like it's been a lot different in the fact that it's like you can sort of get more into that flow. It's kind of difficult to
Yeah.
explain, but it builds. Every day
Yes.
has been building off of each other. Whereas before it was like a day on and then 2 days to process it. It's like
Mhm.
4 full on days of like um doing the inner work, and then the next 3 days, which have been this week, I've been just kind of integrating that. And I honestly, and I took today is my first day of the next 4 days, and I almost felt like today I was like, I don't feel like I really even need it. Like after those 3 days,
Right.
because it's been changing my perspectives even still. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And like even on the days that we don't microdose,
hmm
those days, because I've listened to a lot of podcasts and they say those days, like, look, the medicine is still in your system
right.
and it's still doing things on a cellular level to your brain and to your, like, I can feel it right now having this conversation with you.
hmm
Like before we had hopped on here, I was just alone. I was just in this Airbnb. I was doing my own thing. I felt very
hmm
just sober. Like,
yeah.
and now that I'm having this conversation with you, it feels like something is like lit up in my brain
hmm
almost.
hmm
Like I'm in a flow state right now,
hmm
even though, well, yeah, I did take a microdose, but it was hours ago.
right, me too.
And but even on the days that I'm not microdosing, I still go for a walk and I'm like, this is really enjoyable. It probably wouldn't be this enjoyable, if I was not doing this protocol because I'd be in my depression, OCD kind of spirals.
hmm
Um, and it almost makes me feel like on the days that I'm not microdosing, it does feel a little quieter. Like I don't even want to be on social media. And I'm just
yeah.
like I'm really, it's not numbness, but it's almost like it's kind of a numbness, but it's kind of just like, whoa, like everything in me just feels I don't want to like outreach or do anything like beyond my capacity. I just want to be in like this simple day.
hmm
How basic can I make this day? I have no desire to like make reels on Instagram or like check DMs or like scroll. So that's like really a big success for me because like
yeah.
it makes me not want to like seek out something
hmm
outside of me.
right.
And one other thing that I realized is that because I used to be like binge watching tarot videos on YouTube.
Always looking for
And
something, like, outside of us,
yeah,
like
and like, dude, like that has lowered dramatically since I've been here. and because I was watching them so much at my mom's, it's almost like I was like
Mhm.
addicted to it because I was like, I need answers, I need support,
Mhm.
I need energy, I need to understand like why I'm feeling this way. And now, 2 months in to this protocol, I've started to realize that some of the tarot readers that I was like so obsessed with,
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm like, I don't want to watch that.
I know. I know what you mean. No, I've been, like, honestly looking forward to, like, the little bits of boredom and stuff. It's like it's a different perspective of the mundane and sort of seeing life like, like kids do. Like, kids it's like it's never really a dull moment for kids. It's always a new experience. It's always a new, like, it's sort of like
Yeah.
the colorful I don't know, it's like a colorful joy in everything. It's like going to the grocery store for the first time, just experiencing things like it's the first time you've ever experienced them almost again. And I was looking into, like, like you were saying, it really does something to the brain. And I think what it does is, I think it's called neuroplasticity.
Mhm.
And I wrote down a little definition. It's the brain's capacity to continue growing and evolving in response to life and experiences.
Oh my God,
Um,
I love that. Can you say that again?
Yeah, so neuroplasticity is the brain's capacity to continue growing and evolving in response to life experiences. So, plasticity is the capacity to be shaped, molded, or altered. And neuroplasticity then is the ability for the brain to adapt or change over time by creating new neurons and building new networks.
Mhm.
And like you said, you felt this sort of like, when we were talking right now in a flow state and like something's lit up in you. And, I think that's like the mycelial web underneath the mushrooms. Everything's connected. The mycelial web connects the trees, the forest, everything underneath us. Um, and I think it does that on that level, on a physical level, but then I think it also translates to when we're on like these, not on these substances, I don't know what you would call that, but like when we're in this state of flow,
Yes.
I feel like
Yeah.
it's reflected. It's just like a reflection of that in a different way, in a sort of connection, if that makes sense.
So, yeah, dude, like, um, because I've been so chained and like strangled
That's
with like
crazy you
my
say
mental health
that.
stuff.
I
Why?
I did a couple like I just pulled a couple tarot cards before this.
Mhm.
And I got the 5 of or sorry, the 8 of swords, which is, like,
Oh my
the
God.
woman, like, tied up,
Yeah.
and I looked it up because I was like, "Let me just pull a couple cards to see," and the meaning of that is negative thoughts, self-imposed restriction, imprisonment, victim mentality,
Oh my God.
and that's kinda what I was talking about before, like, I was really in that mindset, like, before I started getting a year ago, and
Yeah.
I
And
think
that's the mindset
yeah.
that like I've been kind of trapped in and stuck in
Mhm.
because like living at my mom's and with her husband and like just that environment, like it really set me back into my restriction, my inability to function, to
Mhm.
handle my emotions, to handle my thoughts.
Real quick, before I get deeper into this episode, I want to talk to you guys about my sponsor for this podcast, BetterHelp. You guys know how much I love therapy. I have been in therapy for several years, but I've been using BetterHelp for about 3 years. And I love my therapist. She's amazing. So I'm very happy that BetterHelp has, sponsored this podcast. And out of all of my sponsors, I gotta be real, BetterHelp is my favorite because I actually use them every day, every week. I have a great relationship with just the experience, and my therapist has helped me through so much the last couple years. And BetterHelp is very, very easy. You don't have to do it. You don't have to do it. You don't have to go to a freaking office. You don't have to take a drive. You don't have to take an Uber or a Lyft. You can just do it from the privacy of your own home or wherever you're traveling. You can do it video. You can do just an audio call if you're not comfortable doing video, or you can do the messaging. And you can also message your therapist whenever you need to. There's also a journal feature, which I love because journaling and typing all of that stuff out of your head is so helpful. So join over 2 million people who are using BetterHelp. That is crazy, 2 million people. It has helped me so much, just having someone on your side and having that outside perspective who is not going to judge you. They're not going to hold anything over your head. They don't know anything, any secrets that you tell them. They're not going to ever hold that against you. And that's what I love about my therapist. I could tell her the worst things I've ever done, and she's not going to judge me. She's been very helpful with everything that I've gone through with, the relationship with my mom and healing and everything like that. And she does EMDR. So you can find a therapist who matches your personal needs, whether it's addiction, substance abuse, trauma, eating disorders, relationship issues. You can find the perfect therapist, and you can change the therapist as many times as you need at no charge, and it's super easy to navigate the app. So all you're going to do is go to betterhelp.com/vibe for a discount, and that will get you a nice discount on your first month of therapy. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/vibe. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/vibe for a 10% off discount your first month of online counseling. And I hope you do it, because we all really need support. And if you haven't tried therapy yet, this is going to help you so much. BetterHelp.com/vibe. And like my OCD stuff, just the volume just turned up all the way, and that manifested in like me like trying to diffuse my pain and my suffering into like these behaviors and these thought patterns, and like it was just like a whirlwind of like keeping me stuck.
Mhm.
And like what I realized, I think the first moment that I realized, whoa, something is I think working with like the mushrooms, because I was just doing it just because I had them, and I didn't really think anything was going to happen, to be
Mhm.
honest. I
Right.
was scared. I was worried and scared to go into it because I didn't want to have a bad experience, but
Yep.
I didn't think anything good was going to happen.
Yeah.
That's how fucking like skewed my brain is,
Mhm.
because it's always thinking about the negative.
Mhm.
I didn't even think, oh wow, like what beauty could happen, like oh my god, what healing could happen. I was just like
Mhm.
so afraid that something bad would happen.
Yeah.
But the moment that I realized something was happening was I was in the kitchen here, and something that usually would have made me like outburst and scream, or like scream out fuck, or like a profanity or something, like,
Yeah.
because I do that shit, like I'm
Mhm.
alone most of the time.
Mhm.
um I didn't do that. I didn't scream. I didn't feel anything bubble up in my body, and I was like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah.
Like I almost felt like physically distanced from what just happened in front of me. Like I was still in my body,
Mhm.
but I was almost like standing behind me a little bit.
Mhm.
And like I was like, "Oh my god, like I feel more at ease, like a little bit more at ease." And like what you were saying earlier, which I'd love to talk more about.
Mhm.
You said that you feel safer with yourself. And I think I DM'd you about this, is that I'm starting to feel more safe with myself and more like a companion to myself, and I'm
Mhm.
living with myself rather than like I'm like I'm forced to live with myself, you know?
Right, right. No, I know what you mean by that. I had a thought, it just left me. Oh yeah, letting go of fear. Oh, so trusting in ourselves. Yes. So, even
It
just
almost
in
feels more pleasant. It
right,
feels more pleasant to live with myself, if that's what
right.
I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a journey of self-love in a sense. And I talked to you about EMDR a little bit because I did a little bit of that
Mhm.
before I did any of the mushroom stuff. But in terms of EMDR, I realized, and I'm still realizing this, that I've always had my back. It kind of, with mushrooms, like you were saying, you kind of take, like you said, you were almost out of your body, but it sort of brings us more into this observer state and not a judgmental state. It's more like I'm just observing
Mhm.
things, and I don't have to react. I don't have to give my energy to something if it's like going to send me down that spiral. And it's like, I don't have to do that to myself.
What's like a situation that you can like, let's get granular, because I want people to like, I
Yeah.
want people to like, because we're not doctors, we're not therapists,
Right.
we're literally just talking about our experience. And if
Mhm.
somebody's like thinking like, okay, well, how is this gonna like reflect into my life? Like, let's get fucking granular.
Mhm.
Let's get really detailed.
Right. So just in terms of trusting ourselves, like even with this whole like mushroom thing, like it's all been an experiment, and I there had like midway through it, I was like I knew that I needed to just take a break. I was like, I need to just give my body and my mind a break. No one told me to do it. No one, I didn't read it anywhere to say this is what you need to do. It's more so creating a connection with yourself, and like doing your own research around things, and just trusting your intuition more, um if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Developing a connection with yourself this way, and the inner journey will reflect outward. Everything just feels more stable.
Yeah, yeah. And like, so even if like life isn't stable,
Mhm.
which like my life's not stable.
Exactly.
My cat almost died a couple months ago.
Mhm.
He's, he's alive, but he might get sick again. I don't know where I'm going to be living. So it's kind of like I'm able to like cultivate calm in the chaos a little bit better. Um,
Yeah,
and
that's like
like,
acceptance. Well,
yeah.
for me at least, it's been acceptance. And, the path of least resistance. Like for me, a lot of the times I was just resisting everything. Like I didn't want it to be this way. I didn't want it to be that way. Just the path of least resistance now has been showing itself more and more. And when I realize if I realize now I can fight a situation, or I can just accept it and go with the flow of it and do what I can, and that's all I can do.
Hmm.
Whereas before it's like I was fighting everything. Like I didn't want to, like, like that, and I was procrastinating so much because of it. Like it's just put me more into a state of gratitude for things.
Hmm.
And like this,
Yeah, I hope.
like things like that, like things that come to shake us up, like with your cat. And like my cat passed away too, like or my cat passed away last year, like I was telling you. I
Yeah.
was kind of talking to you about that, and it just kind of helped me accept everything, and kind of see everything in a different way, and realize like in those tough times, like there's usually a bigger picture to it all. Like, and like now I tell myself, like, this is happening for me. What can I learn from this? How can I grow from this?
Hmm.
Instead of dwelling in that state of like depression and sadness, which I think is definitely okay to feel. I think it's definitely good to feel those things, um, because we have to feel those things to be human. We're human.
Yeah.
But it's like you feel it and you don't have to hold on to it. Before I was, like if I was in a depressed state, it was really hard for me to get out of that. Whereas now it's just like I can move through it in a more fluid way.
You can get yourself out of the hole a little bit easier.
Yep.
Like, yeah, I feel that too. And what you were just saying is like, so you can, before that you were saying like
Mhm.
you can, you're not going to let the depression kind of like take you away so deep. And the reacting to the things, like you have more capacity almost like to like deal with the trigger or whatever that's in front of you, and then like move forward like
Yeah.
instead of getting like sticky and stuck in it. And that
Right.
right there, that's what I'm hoping to experience when I go back to my mom's next week. um
Mhm.
because the whole point of me doing this
Yeah.
was like, the whole reason I didn't do the microdosing stuff at her house was
Mhm.
because I was afraid.
Mhm.
Like I felt so unsafe in that environment. And it's like there's traumatic wounds that are happening in that dynamic that will never go away, ever, ever, ever,
Mhm.
ever.
Mhm.
They're never going to be healed unless I heal myself.
Yep.
Because my mom and her husband, I don't even call him my stepdad. Because
Mhm.
he's nothing to me.
Mhm.
Um, they're never going to man up. They're never going to be able to have that conversation. They're never going to see the way that, me and my sister see things
Mhm.
because they're lost in it, in the toxicity.
Mhm.
And so I can't force myself I can't force them to see things how I am anymore because I've wasted so much time and energy that it only took me further deep into my mental illness. And
Right.
so the whole process and the whole point of me doing this for people to understand is like, I want to feel disconnected from that in a healthy way because I've done so much work in therapy and EMDR and talk therapy and trauma therapy, and I'm a yoga teacher and
Mhm.
whatever. I have all these tools, you know?
Right.
But at the end of the day, I needed something else because
Yeah.
on a brain level, none of that shit was actually helping. And like for some reason, I just kept thinking, okay, well, I have this mushroom chocolate that my friend gifted to me in the summer.
Mhm.
This is this has come into my life for a reason, you
Yep.
know?
Yep.
So I might as well fucking do it and just
Mhm.
see what happens. What's the worst that could happen? I'm not going to end up in the ER from a microdose.
Right.
You know, like I had to like talk myself through that. Like what is the worst that could happen? And like I waited to come out here where I have my own Airbnb. I have no like responsibilities. I don't have to take care of my cat. I don't have to do anything except for take care of myself, and grocery shop and clean and work from my phone. And I'm grateful that I can work from my phone and make money. I'm not making that much money right now because I've kind of just been on a break
Mhm.
doing this microdose experience. But
Yeah.
like I feel like this was what I needed. Some people can do them, and I'm gonna do the microdosing stuff still, even when I go back to teaching yoga, even when I go back to being around more people,
Mhm.
and when I'm at my mom's, I'm gonna continue it. But I think just to like feel safe enough to get into the whole medicinal way of life, I had to just be alone.
Yeah.
And like, and for me to be alone meant like all of the noise from the toxicity that I was living in was completely gone, and it was just me and my mind and my body.
And I think that's important too. And when it comes to, I mean, any psychedelics in general, just like set and setting, and knowing yourself to the point where like you knew you needed to go somewhere else. You knew you couldn't do it there. You knew it wouldn't be healthy or maybe even safe.
Hmm.
And trusting yourself enough to go and get in a better setting to heal. Um,
Yeah.
but
Like for me, well, first I want to hear more about like some experiences that you knew, okay, this is working. Because I kind of just went
mhm.
through like I feel like I just went down a rabbit hole, and I don't know, I feel like I am in a flow state right now, like which
Yeah,
feels crazy. I
yeah.
want to hear about like some aha moments that you've had because that's kind of what's going to make people realize like look, we were so deep in our like mental illness. Like I
Mhm.
want you to explain a little about where you were at like in the
Mhm.
darkness, and then a couple of moments like where you were like holy shit, okay, something's changing.
Right. So yeah, I was totally like stuck. Like I did a lot of work before I even did any of the mushroom stuff. I did a lot of like work to try, meditation, yoga, all these things to, get more mindful of my thoughts. It's been a long journey. I back, years and years ago, I used to hate myself. I used to absolutely, cringe at everything about myself. And then I kind of started going down the self-love journey, um, to, realize, take a look at my own thoughts, take a step back and look at my thoughts. And I realized, like, holy shit, my thoughts are so bad. Like, I'm just always worrying. I'm always, think, like you said before, like, what can go wrong? And
Catastrophizing.
yeah, yeah, like every little thing. Like, and I realized, I put all the pieces together and realized, like, holy shit, I'm like really attracting all this negative stuff into my life. Like, I'm like, just anything, car stuff, health stuff. Back then I was in a really toxic relationship, just constantly looking for things that are wrong, looking for things that are bad. And once I took a step back and started meditating and all that, I was like, this is like a lot of this is all in my head. Like I'm like these are my thoughts and I'm projecting them. You know, it's all manifesting in front of me, and a lot of it is stemming from inside of me, my thoughts. So over the years, I did a lot of work through that. I little by little, like, kept meditating. You know, became a lot more mindful with my thoughts. I would try, like, if I would notice myself, like if I was thinking something negative or like looking for the lack in things. I would then focus on my breath and say, like, this isn't, like, I don't have to believe this. This doesn't have to be my truth, and I can change it to something better, something more abundant. You know, something that is just more healthy. So I did a lot of work on my own that way before any like psychedelics or anything. And but you know, like, I kept falling back. Like, I would be on the wagon for a while and like be doing, like, you know, quote unquote good, or like um you know, looking for good things, and then I would catch myself after a few months and being like, "Oh my god, I'm back in that negative loop again." And it was like an ongoing thing. Like, it kept going, like, for the over the years, like little by little it get better, but there was still something that I was like, there's something deeper that I need to work through, because these patterns, they keep showing up and I keep like falling off the wagon, so to speak, if that makes sense.
Like you get like a week of like, okay, I feel like a positive energy,
Mhm.
and then it's just gone.
Yeah, it's like I forget. Like, it's like, honestly, like, I just forgot. It's hard. It wasn't
That you're safe.
yeah, it wasn't engraved in me yet. And I felt like, you know, I could only do so much. And um so yeah, that's kind of where I was like, you know, little, like you said, they just kind of came into your life. Like, I feel like I just kept seeing more and more things pop up about it, like hearing more articles, more podcasts about microdosing.
Mm-hmm.
and and I was like, you know what, why don't I give this a shot? Like you said, I kind of had some mushrooms laying around, and I was like, I'm just gonna try it. Like, what's the worst that could happen? Kind of thing.
Right, right. Like, and so, do you mind sharing, like, I don't know, like, if you have any
Mhm.
diagnoses or whatever. Like,
Oh yeah.
I feel like I share too much on my podcast. I'm like, yeah, I have OCD, I have an eating disorder, I have ADHD. I'm like,
Hmm.
what mental health issues were you really trying to tackle?
Definitely depression. And I haven't ever been diagnosed with ADHD or ADD, but I do feel like I have some of those tendencies where my mind it was really scattered, and like even just little things like,
Overwhelming.
yeah, I would like be doing in the middle of doing something, and then, you know, another thought pops up, and it's a thought. It's like, oh, I have to go do something else. Like, I would like leave cabinets open, like just not attentive to things at all, really.
Yeah.
Just like really scatterbrained and not focused. Nothing like, yeah, like I said, I haven't really been diagnosed, but just overall depression, and, you know,
But
just
your depression is linked to trauma.
right, right.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm still, even now, like a year later, I'm still working through things that are deep seated in me. I've been experiencing a lot of this physical tension in my head in the beginning, these migraines, and I'm realizing like there's still a lot of trauma that I haven't even like dug into yet. You know, it's like layers and layers to everything.
Mm.
But like little by little, it's like chipping away and creating these new pathways in my brain, and realizing these stories don't have to be true that I tell myself. Like, I can change the story. And it's like getting this power back that I never knew I even had before.
What is one of the stories that your depression or your trauma like tells you that you've been feeling like you're rewiring?
Mhm. Um Let me think about this for a second. So what I've been rewiring? Sorry, could you say that one more time?
Yeah, like because I mean, sorry to put you on the spot.
No, it's okay.
So like, what is one of the stories? Because like,
Mhm.
so for me, for example, one of the stories that my mental illness tells me is that
Mhm.
I'm super fucked up, and the way that I am with food and like the way that I am like with how much I judge my body, like no one's gonna ever want to be with me. Like that's one
Mhm.
of the stories that I'm working through.
Right.
So
Um, so a story that I would tell myself before, um, like I guess I don't know if I would call it a story, but it's more like it's never gonna be perfect. Like it's never gonna be like I guess I was always striving for perfectionism.
hmm
So to the point where it's like I wouldn't do anything because what's the point if it's not going to be perfect? Um,
like you're never gonna be good enough.
yeah, yeah, there you go. Exactly. I'm never going to be good enough. It's never going to be enough. So what's the point of even doing it at all? Kind of thing. Um, so
And
now, yeah,
how has that like yeah, go ahead.
yeah. So now it's like it is. It's never going to be perfect. But it's never going to be
Right.
perfect. But it's a different perspective of it. It's like almost a good thing. Like I don't. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's an acceptance of that.
It's like a
Um,
relief.
yeah, exactly. Like it doesn't have to be so serious. Like I just took everything so seriously, and it was like I wasn't having any fun anymore. And it's like
hmm
now I'm realizing everything can be fun, even the things that I don't necessarily want to do. Like even little things before, like oh, I was like oh, I don't want to do the dishes, and it's just like oh, I don't want to do this, and just developing a different relationship now with everything, every little thing. Um,
Yeah, dude.
yeah.
Like things don't feel as mucky.
Mhm.
Like, okay, so if I have to do like a mundane thing, like here there's no I don't have my own laundry. It's like I have to go down
Mhm.
a creepy dark room that's, it's like not a fun experience at all.
Mhm.
So like the way that I get myself through that is like, okay, what can I do to like make it more fun? And
Right.
like I actually like found a way to like make something like not fun at all, like more enjoyable. Or like even like I've told you, like just going for a walk. I've been walking around the same fucking neighborhood every time I go for a walk, which is every day. And I,
Mhm.
I walk the same streets, but every day it feels pretty good.
Mhm.
It hasn't gotten like crazy boring yet.
Yeah, it's like we have the choice in how we experience things. I mean, that and that comes down to intention too. It's like what are my intentions behind all my actions? Whereas before it was like I was just doing things just to get through it, like, looking for the end result. I wasn't enjoying the process. I wasn't like, you know, and I think that comes back to being present too. I wasn't present with anything I was doing. I wasn't really putting intention behind things. So nothing felt special anymore. Nothing felt like, I was just like I was getting through the day.
Yeah, literally just
Yeah.
oh my fucking god. Yeah, like when I was living at my mom's, it was literally just me at war during the day just to get through the day, just to get to the moment at night where my mom's husband would go to bed. Because that's the
Mhm.
only moment of the entire day and night that I felt safe and secure and
Mhm.
distanced, and I didn't have to resort to like all of my crazy coping mechanisms and behaviors and OCD stuff. And so it's almost like, and I felt that sigh of relief every time, every night when I got that time to myself. And I was like, okay, now I feel like I can breathe.
Right.
Well, how can I? I want to feel that regardless of what the fuck is
Yeah,
happening around.
exactly. It's like we can't control what's going on around us, but we can control how we react.
Yeah.
But before I didn't know that. I was like I didn't think I could control how I reacted. Like it just felt like I was responding like from like fight or flight to everything, and I didn't have any control over anything.
Hold on. So you just said fight or flight, and I'm glad
Mhm.
you did because when you
Mhm.
were talking before, I pulled up hypervigilance because that's basically what fight or flight is. And
Mhm.
I've been I've been doing a lot of reflecting on like how like it almost feels like my personality, like my ingrained self, like I'm just a hyper vigilant person because of all of the trauma that I've gone through with moving. Like that's a big
Yeah.
piece of my trauma is like being homeless, all the times that I've moved, all the times that I've gotten like the rug kind of like swept up from underneath me.
Mhm. And then you kind
Um
of like expect that to keep happening. It's like, oh, it's
yes.
just going to keep happening because that's always happened.
And that, what you just said,
Mhm.
is the story that I've been working on the most with my
Mhm.
therapist, my EMDR therapist. Shout out to her. She's my BetterHelp therapist. Everyone, you know how much I love BetterHelp.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the main story right there. Is that oh,
Mhm.
like if things go right, that's only for a moment. Like
Mhm.
things are gonna get super fucked up real quick. So you better not get used to this because the rug's gonna get swept up from underneath you. Like just you wait.
Yep, it's like those,
You know?
like you said, the stories that we tell ourselves, and
That
that
yeah.
it's like whatever we think, like when we're thinking those kind of things, I feel like it's reflected into reality, and that's kind of what we see in a
Mhm.
way. And working through that, it's like it doesn't have to be that way.
Mm-mm. But it's so ingrained because how are you
Right.
supposed to know? How are you supposed to change and mold the way that you think when the experiences you've been through have told you otherwise and you have all this proof of things going wrong?
Mhm.
So like that's where like the mushrooms come in because I feel like it forces your brain to do that neuroplasticity
Right.
shape shifting like
Yep.
to be able to see things in a different way regardless of how fucked up your life has been.
Yeah, it's like literally creating new paths in your brain, and that manifests physically. Like it's like, "Oh, I can see these different paths now in my life." Like I could go down this path of like, thinking that it's going to be bad again and thinking that it's going to, nothing's going to work out for me, or
Mhm.
now I see another path. It's like I see this other path I could take, and wow, look at that. Like I could change all of this, and that's what it's been changing all of it. And like it hasn't been an overnight thing. Like it's still a process, it's still healing, and it's still like it's not easy, but it's like
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And sometimes you can't even like articulate it into words. Like me and
mhm,
you are articulating it right now
yeah,
because we're flowing off of each other.
yeah,
But there's been days where I feel like, okay, there's something happening in my brain and I feel like I'm not so entrenched in the way that things have turned out for me. Like yes, I have all of this proof that things have not that these circumstances they were not good, but
mhm,
also there's a feeling in my mind and in my body that things are going to get better.
mhm,
And like I haven't been able to feel that because I had been so stuck in the muck of like the negativity and the hypervigilance that it's almost like the substance of the psilocybin has kind of like intervened like forcefully
yeah,
but like gently
right. No, it makes a lot of sense.
like like to the point where I'm like okay so like
Well,
okay
it's
so
like
there is a something else there's
it's like
something else.
it's a tool, like anything, like any of these things, it's still a tool. And there's still a user behind the tool. Like we still have to put in the work, and we still have to like, do
Mhm.
the inner work and like make sure, for me it's been helping me get my actions more aligned with my thoughts and how I want, things to manifest. Um
More clear.
yeah, exactly. Way more
Yeah.
clear. It's like, okay, I had this, it's like the sky is always blue, but the clouds and the storms come through and we can't see it. And it's a reminder, it's like it's a reminder that the sky is still blue underneath all of that. Like there's still a blue sky.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And like so like for people who are listening to us, like some people might be like, what the fuck? Okay, that's like the most cliche thing, but like,
Yeah.
okay, hear me out. When I said earlier that things hit differently, like words, the most basic term or the most basic phrase or the most basic thing hits differently. Like I feel it differently. Like
Mhm.
something that someone's always told me forever. Like if my therapist says is that how it really is, or are you just seeing it that way because you're you?
Mhm.
Like, I'm like, my mind is like fucking blown because I'm
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, you're right, because I've been stuck in my head
Mhm.
and I like have been so trapped in this that I'm not seeing things clearly because we can't go and hop from brain to brain. And I think like what the microdosing has given me is just like a taste of what it can feel like to not be so like in the trenches of my own brain.
Right. It almost, like, amplifies things to a point where it's like you have to face it and get through
Mhm.
it, and even especially in, like, macro doses and stuff like that, for me, if I when I have used it in more of, like, an internal setting, it's like it amplifies these, like, patterns to a point where you have no it's hard to get through, but, like, you have to get through it, and once you do, it's like a whole new world in a way.
And you're so it's almost like you're hyper aware.
Mhm.
So like there's this other woman who I met through like eating disorder recovery groups, and she's older than us. She's I think in her early 60s, and she's doing this as well.
Mhm.
So she's had a lot more years of pain and being
Yeah.
stuck, right?
Yeah.
And she's feeling it too. She's feeling these waves of being able to feel pleasure and joy and um like just being okay with herself and like being able to experience like happiness, and
Mhm.
she's been so deep in the trenches of like hating herself for so many
Mhm.
years.
Mhm.
I want to get her on the podcast because she would say all of these things.
Yeah.
Her name is Marla, and I really want to get her on. And
Yeah,
like,
that'd be great.
um, if she's feeling it, like after like maybe 40 years or more, probably 50 years, because she said it started for her when she was like 8.
Mhm.
Um, like holy shit, like it is possible. It just like when it comes down, my thing is like when it comes down to the big T traumas, it's
Mhm.
almost like the karmic traumas that like we can't shake off no matter what the fuck we do, right?
Right. Yeah, things that
Like
just keep coming back up.
it's those big things that keep us going back to those patterns and cycles of, for me, for example, like my eating disorder or
Mhm.
my OCD. For you, it's like the depression and like falling back into that dark space.
Mhm.
And I have depression too, but I think I have a low grade depression because for some reason I'm able to still like go out and do things, which I'm very grateful to do, but I think that's only
Mhm.
because I have ADHD.
Yeah, yeah, for me it
Even
was
if I'm
yeah.
depressed, the ADHD will still force me to go out and do things
Mhm.
because I have so much like pent up like energy that like I need to go use it or whatever.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, and for me before that was like it was a depression to the point where it was like I couldn't even get myself to do things like for like, and then it was like another cycle where I was like, "Oh, I'm falling behind." That's another story I would always tell myself is like I'm behind. I'm never gonna catch up. Like it's like I was always like striving for something that didn't even exist.
like you're like okay, so
Mhm.
this is how I feel sometimes is that I'm losing time and
Mhm.
that I'm missing out and that I'm really not reaching my potential right now, and like I'm losing time and I'm not living my life. Like
Mhm.
everyone else around me is living their life and I'm not.
Right. And I think that comes down to a comparison thing. Like for me, yeah, like I was really always comparing my life to others. And in a sense, when it comes down to like the inner child here, in the inner child healing, it's like kids aren't comparing themselves to others. Kids are like in their own little worlds, and they don't, they're just having fun. And like once I stopped
And
comp-
things slide off of them too. Sorry, I just needed to say
yeah,
that.
yeah, exactly. It's like they don't have to sit there and dwell on things. And um I forgot where I was going with that, but yeah, just in general, like compassion, like and
Mhm.
having like just more self-compassion, and having more compassion for self, not judging myself anymore. Like I would
Mhm.
totally just judge every little thing that I did to the point where it was like debilitating. And it was like, I don't want to do anything because like I'm just sitting, like I just sit there afterwards and just judge myself to the point where it's like, it's just messed up.
It's
It
like,
was messed
yeah,
up.
like really, it's like it was really unpleasant for me to live with myself before.
Mhm.
And like, don't get me wrong, like I still have a lot of work to do,
Mhm.
but it feels like I'm more approving of myself and I'm more accepting. And even though I have some really fucked up
Mhm.
behaviors and things I do with food and OCD stuff, and it's almost like the medicine has been, it helps me have these reality checks where I'm like, guess what?
Mhm.
Every other person around here, like in the world, is fucked up.
Mhm.
Maybe they're not
Right.
like, maybe they're not aware of it, and maybe they're not like speaking about it, and maybe they're not maybe they're
Mhm.
hiding it really really well.
Right. Like
And
as
that's why I feel so crazy when I'm at my mom's, is
yeah.
because they're pretending that they're everything is fine,
Mhm.
and everything is not fine, and I'm so hyper aware of things already
Yeah, it's like everything's
that it
just
makes me feel
numb.
crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think having well, like that, like finding more compassion for yourself, then we find more compassion for others. And it's like, I'm not judging myself as much, so therefore I'm not judging others as much. Like I'm not looking for what's wrong in me, so I'm not really sitting there looking for what's wrong in others anymore. It's totally like a reflection in all of the connections.
That's my goal. I mean,
Yeah.
we shall see, because here it has been easier for me to like not have much like judgment, because it's like people that really, it's just random people, it's friends who I love, but like it's
Mhm.
not, it doesn't feel as heavy to me as my mom and her husband.
Yeah.
So like I'm really hoping that once I get back there, I'll be able to just kind of let things flow through me and slide off of me and not feel like the things that they do day in, day out,
Mhm.
I don't want to be affected anymore.
Right. Like I don't take
You
things
know?
as personally anymore, and it'll be interesting to see how when you get back how things are different if they are, and I'm sure you'll share with us all about that. But um, what was I saying with that? Um, I lost my train of thought again.
It's okay, because I feel like I've lost my train of thought like a million times during this conversation,
Mhm.
because
It's so
truly
exciting. Like,
I didn't feel this energy in me at all today.
yeah.
And then when I sat down here and I'm having this conversation with you, something in my brain is lighting up. And I think it's
Mhm.
because me and you are unlocking energies and
Mhm.
memories and things in our body and in our mind, and the mushrooms and the psilocybin is in our body and in our mind right now.
Right, it's all connected, and I feel like it has to do with frequencies too, like certain frequencies of energies and that kind of thing.
So it's like activated.
Yeah, yeah, and like sort of like a radio station, like you're tuned into a certain station, and it sort of tunes, at least for me when I'm like microdosing, I feel like I'm tuned into like a higher station or something. Like my senses are heightened in a way that I don't know. But kind of circling back to what you said when you're going back home and everything, and just for me, it's been like I've been realizing that it's not personal. Like for like when people are projecting things, it's not really about me. It's about them. Like they're like at the end of the day, like people have depression, trauma, and everyone just probably needs a hug, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like
Like
the things that people say and do aren't to deliberately hurt me,
mhm.
but the thing, because I know we were talking about this before, is like being super sensitive and
Yeah, taking it for me,
like
like I took everything personally like way way more personally before.
like also being like, I don't like this about myself, but like everything that my mom and her husband would do would piss me the fuck off on like a deep, deep level, to the point where I was
Mhm.
like, I feel uncomfortable in my own body and in my own mind because of how much anger is rising,
Mhm.
you know?
Mhm. And that's
And
like
that's
giving
what I
them the
want.
power too. That's like in that case they have the power in a sense, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's like like getting that power back and realizing like it, just I don't know, it's like a subtle perspective shift.
Mhm.
And like, yeah,
And even though it's
it's not
subtle.
personal. Like at the end of the day, it's usually not personal. It's like usually like their own problem that they're just projecting.
Right, but how can I make it so that, like, the things that they're doing, because
Mhm.
I'm somehow making it about me. It's
Mhm.
somehow making me feel triggered, and it's related to my trauma. Everything
Right.
for me when I'm there resorts back to abandonment, betrayal, disrespect, all those wounds.
Mhm.
So it's like, how can I make it so that the things they're doing in their life every day, I'm not going to be like this hypervigilant open wound that like can't function.
Mhm.
Like, and I already know that I'm not going to feel as intense when I go back, but usually that feeling, cuz like when I go away for a while and then I go back, it's like
Yeah.
I feel fine, and
Yeah.
then it's like right back to being feeling like I can't be here, you know?
Right.
So I'm hoping that
Dealing with
it'll
the
feel a little bit.
external in a different, realizing that we can't control the external. We can't control what anybody else does, but we can control how we react to it. And
Yeah.
becoming the observer of a situation rather than like judging the situation. For me, that's kind of been like a lot of the process is, like you said, like you kind of felt like it takes you out of your body, out of the moment, and it gives you a minute to, so we don't have to just like react so quickly and so emotionally um in those like crazy moments, or just anything, any little trigger. like I that's just been the main thing for me, is I realize I do have the power to control how I react.
Mhm.
And
And
yeah.
it's like, since things, because it does help the nervous system. So like if we want to talk about like the mushrooms,
Yeah.
it actually does have like a physical component of what it does to the nervous system.
Right.
So I think the fact that that things are, the volume of things are lowered for me, like with my mental illness,
Mhm.
it makes my nervous system feel more at ease. So that makes my reactions feel less intense.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, like find and then like another thing is just like finding gratitude for it all. Like just little things, like I'll just like laughing at things instead of just like reacting so negatively. It's like now things that like we were talking about this a little bit before, is just laughing, like
Hmm.
like finding just joy again.
That's what I need to work on. I think I want to have you back on. I think
Yeah.
it would be cool if we did like if you were just like kind of a reoccurring guest, and
Mhm.
like so we could have these like mushroom
I
chats.
love that. Yeah, that'd be
Um
awesome. It's been a lot. I mean, this has been really cool for me too, because like I've been reflecting all day on my journey and stuff, and really like thinking back. Like I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't even believe it's been a year like doing this.
yeah, and you have
And
so much knowledge and so much like you have so much that you've learned that it's not going to all come out in one conversation.
yeah, exactly.
It's going to come out in tons of flowy conversations like this. So I feel
Mhm.
like that will help people grasp it, and it'll also help us be able to process it more so that we can help people, because
Yes.
sometimes when people ask me like, "Oh, what's it doing for you?" It's like, "Oh shit."
I know
I don't.
it's such a hard, you can't just like answer that in one sentence or like a few, like even a paragraph. It's like I don't
Yeah,
it's
like,
so deep. It's like it changes things on such a different level, and it's really it's hard to put in words because it's so
it's
like
an energy.
subconscious. Yeah.
And yeah, like even sitting here right now, this is an energy that I haven't felt yet on my microdosing journey because I haven't talked to someone like this.
Right. No, I feel that
Um,
too. I totally feel it. I feel like lit up inside, and I've been feeling this like
yeah,
coming on slowly all day. And maybe it's an excitement too, because a lot of this is all so new, like, and there's not, I mean, there's a lot more research now on it all, but like I feel like a lot of the research is still slowly like surfacing, and this is still like the beginning of kind of this whole movement, if you want to call it that.
and there's
um
not enough. The thing is that there's not enough people actually talking about their experiences like this.
mhm.
It's just the experts talking about the science and like, like how
Yeah.
it works. But like I
Right.
think
Right.
something to be said about storytelling, and people want to feel comfortable and people want to feel not alone about like all the fucked up things that are going on in their life and in their head.
Yeah.
And like, I can listen to experts talk about this all day long, but it's not
Mhm.
going to make me understand like, well, what's happening like granular like in my life. And like the fact that I'm able to sit here with you and feel like this healthy kind of like buzzing happen in me, like,
Mhm.
because when you trip on mushrooms and it's like a big dose,
Mhm.
you feel kind of like when you're breathing you feel it, and when you kind of feel like you're vibrating a little bit.
Yeah, totally.
Like, I feel that on a very, very low dose right now.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. It's crazy the connections it does, and like I was saying before, I feel like it's all connected, even like the mycelial, like I was talking about before. If you Google mycelial web and if you Google like neurons, they look exactly the same.
That's fucking dope.
And yeah, so that was another image that I kind of had in my mind. It's like these little tendrils are like connecting us, and there's like everything's lighting up, and everything is light, which is interesting. Another wormhole to go down, but
Yeah, 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 and you can feel it. You can feel it happening, and it's not anything scary or crazy for people who are maybe afraid to try. And I'm always going to put the three companies that I've found in the show notes.
hmm
So for people who need reputable, whatever, or if you know somebody in your area who actually has, do whatever feels right to you, or if somebody like offers you them, like that's a sign from God or from spirit or from source that maybe,
hmm
but if this episode is calling to anyone, and we're speaking to you, like, do some research, listen to the playlist. I'll put the playlist of all the mushroom podcasts that I've been listening to in the show notes. And then, Chelsea, if you have
hmm
any like resources or anything that you've found, like, just send me links and stuff and I can
yeah.
put that in there. Or if you have any like notes, or I don't know, if you have anything you want to share with people, like, I feel like people will be able to listen to this episode and get a feel for what they're in for, and like how it can help them on a real level.
Yeah, definitely. I have some things I can send you. I have a list here that I wrote down, and I feel like at the end of the day, like most important thing is to listen to yourself. Like the most important thing that I've gotten out of this is to trust myself. And that it's just been solidified. Like trust yourself. If you have an intuition, a feeling like, oh, like this is calling to me, like trust it. Like don't like we don't have to fight it. Like we can trust our gut. We can like it's just been getting to know myself on such a deeper level that I just know things are going to work out now, and that's just kind of like that's my new story is this is everything's working out for me. And I
Trusting
yeah.
ourselves and being able to trust the universe and the plan, because that's what hypervigilance is. It's like,
Mhm.
I can't trust. I just can't.
Mhm.
But like, I hope this episode helps you guys just kind of tap into the energy of like, you can feel safe, and like things can work out and things can get better.
Mhm. And changing those stories.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, this was amazing, and now I feel like I'm going to have to like do some like breathing and kind
Yeah,
of like rituals to like
you like
calm me down
decompress.
almost.
No, I
you know.
totally feel that, and I have so many new thoughts now going on that I want to process through all this. And because
Write them down.
like I haven't really had a conversation with anybody who's been doing this, and it's been cool since you've kind of a couple months in, and it's been interesting to hear your perspective on it. Not since I've been doing it for a year. It's like
Oh my
it's
god.
cool
You
to
probably have so many things happening. Like, you have already you already have like books of notes that you have in your head.
right, exactly. But it's been a cool reminder, like hearing from your perspective and how like how fresh everything is for you with all this too.
Yeah. Okay,
Yep.
so we're gonna make this a thing,
Yes,
mushroom chats,
I love
and
that.
because as much as I like talking into a microphone by myself, I have been feeling like I want the podcast to shift away from that, and
you know, like I like doing solo episodes, but I want to have someone who I can riff with like this and flow
Mhm.
with like this come on more often, so that we don't have to just talk about mushrooms. We
Yeah.
can talk about other shit too,
Yep.
you know?
Yeah, and now that this is, figuring out this whole this is the first podcast I've been on, so it was like, I was a little
No
nervous at first.
way.
Yeah. Yeah, so,
Amazing.
now that I kinda know, get the first nerves out of the way, I can be a little bit more composed for the future episodes and thinking of, having a little bit more of a structure, I guess,
Yeah,
if
and we
that
can always like have like a theme or ideas to go into it. I just
Yeah,
think this flowed so beautifully, and I'm so
yeah,
grateful that you and I have like connected and we met on Instagram,
yeah,
and yeah, I'm just grateful because like I don't think I've ever had this deep of a conversation with someone right off the bat, like, you know,
yeah,
like I know that we know each other through stuff we've shared through
right.
the DMs, but like this is different and I feel it.
Yeah, it's like it can only go so far through, like, texting and, DMing or whatever.
So, and we're at 1
Yeah.
hour and 11
Oh
minutes, so
my
I think
gosh.
that's a great place to end.
That's funny, that's funny, I love that. That's great.